Strap on your binoculars. This is not going to be easy. We're at Schoodic Point in Acadia National Park. This is Sea Watch 2023. A few thousand ducks are about to fly right by here. At a distance, how are you going to know what they are? Well, don't worry, I'll put a few tricks up your sleeve. 5 common eiders, and they're all females. So why are we doing this? I posted a video on this last year. I'll put a link at the end so you can go check that out. Better yet, watch all the videos in this channel till you get to the right one. So here it is. Any sea duck that wants to be over salt water and migrate south pretty much has to go right by here. That means as all the seabirds empty out of Canada to go south for the winter, they've got to go pretty much by Schoodic Point because it's a speed bump that sticks out in the ocean. They want to stay over the water but stay close to shore, got to go right by here. Eiders, scoters, cormorants, thousands and thousands of them. Look, most of these birds nest so far north in remote places that no human can actually go and see where they nest, and certainly not count them. But if you watch them fly by here, you can count a lot of them. So by comparing this count to previous years for each species, we can kind of tell whether a population is going up or down. If it's going down, we can ask ourselves, all right, what did we screw up now? Now, most of these birds are going to stay relatively close to shore, either because of what they eat or because they can't dive very deep. It's about 9 miles across Frenchman's Bay from Schoodic Point right here to Cranberry Island, Baker Island, over there. And the birds are going to follow that line, going right by here. Let's begin. There's a flock of birds going by a mile out. How can you tell what they are? We'll start with the big ones and work our way down. Northern gannets have a 6-foot wingspan. They're the biggest birds out here. They're plunge divers, and when they dive, they can go as deep as 70 feet, so they don't have to stay as close to shore as some of the other birds. They're also not in a big hurry. They'll keep going right by this point until January. Some days they're milling around right out here. Other days they're way out to sea where we don't see them because that's where the food is. Now we know where the nesting colonies are up in Quebec and Newfoundland, and we can visit those and actually count them. We're only counting about 5,000 a year as they go by here, so we know the number that we're seeing is pretty low compared to what's really going by. But from what we have been able to count, the numbers have dropped over the last couple of years. We're thinking maybe avian flu. And they wheel around out there in the air like gulls, only bigger. Northern gannets take several years to mature. When they're adults, they're bright white with black wingtips. The darker the gannet is, the younger it is. Double-crested cormorants are big and obvious and numerous. 20,000 a year go by this point on the count every year. It's the only bird that's going to fly in a V formation out here, except for the rare flock of Canada geese. Canada geese really don't want to fly over open ocean salt water like this, so that's not real common. Double-crested cormorants have long necks and relatively big heads, so there's a lot of bird in front of the wing, not so much in the back. Plus, the head tends to be held higher than the body, so you get this effect. Double-crested cormorants also have a slower wing beat than most of the other birds flying by out here. I mean, at 2 miles, you can still not screw this up. I mean, I can, but you can't. Sorry, got distracted. Harlequin duck, I didn't even think they were here yet. Double-crested cormorants can fly quite high, and they'll fly over land. The other birds really won't do that. Oh, good example. Great cormorants, yeah, they're here too, not just the double-crested cormorants. Most of them are going to stay here because they winter over. They don't really go very far south, but they can go a little south, and some will pass by here, and they do get on the count. Funny thing about great cormorants, when they fly by, often they have their mouths open. Peregrine falcon. He's probably migrating south, but he's also probably taking advantage of the point because songbirds will collect here waiting to cross in a good wind, and he may be just picking off a meal. Loons fly very directly, like a straight line. They don't really go up much, they don't go down much, it's just Common loons trail their big feet way behind, so there's as much bird behind the wing as there is in front, and that's noticeable at a big distance. Loons don't flock up as much as the other birds. In fact, you may get 2 or 3 together, but that's as much coincidence as anything else. They're just going to the same place. Loons are long and skinny with fast wing beats, but that's true of some other birds too. According to Sea Watch records, about 1 out of every 5 loons that flies by is actually a red-throated loon. Their feet are going to be shorter, so there's going to be a lot more bird in front than the back of the wing, and they are smaller. In a race between double-crested cormorants and red-throated loons, bet on the loon. Every year, about 400 red-breasted mergansers fly by here too. They tend to flock up a little more and do it in small groups, very fast wing beats, and a white patch in the back of the wing that helps. Males aren't that hard to distinguish, but the females can be. Redneck grebes have the same appearance and flying pattern, and they also have white in the back of the wings. Fortunately, they tend to hold their head down like red-throated loons, down below the body as they're flying, like this. I'll tell you, these fast flapping skinny flyers aren't going to make things easy for you, but neither are the eiders and scoters. Common eiders are the biggest ducks in North America, but at 1 mile out, they can still look pretty small. Common eiders kind of caravan in a straight line, usually close to the water where they get a ground effect, a little cushion of air just over the waves that they can float along on. But sometimes into a headwind, they'll just go right up. Male eiders are mostly white, and if they're in the flock, that really helps at a distance. A lot of the eiders going by are just dark females, and that doesn't help you much. There may be some immatures in there, so if you spot a little white in with all the dark females, that's a good hint. Scoters, scoters, scoters. There are 3 species, and they all look relatively similar, and they fly the same way. And they're similar enough that at a distance, they can be hard to tell apart. In fact, half of the scoters that go by here won't be identified. They'll just be listed as scoter species. The good news is white-winged scoters are bigger than surf and black scoters, and they've got that big white wing patch. Both male and female have that white wing patch back there. Whew, that helps. Male surf scoters have a white forehead and a big white patch in the back of the head, and so at a distance, that still shows up. Unfortunately, you got to be really close to the females to see that little white cheek patch. Black scoters are uniformly black. If you get a right-sized duck going by fast, it's probably that. In this case, females actually make it easier because they're brown and they've got this grayish cheek that you can see at a distance. One thing to be aware of, the species can mix in the same flock, so you can have a bigger white-winged scoter right next to a black or surf scoter. Then you've got some of the little birds going by. Long-tailed ducks are going to settle in around here. Some will continue to go south, and we count them as they go by. Black guillemots are going to be meandering nearby, and they're not going anywhere. They're here year-round. Sea Watch is run by Schoodic Institute, which studies particularly how things are timed in nature, which is why we're timing the migration of these birds. A lot of these birds go on a different schedule. Most of the surf scoters went by early. White-winged scoters, most of them went with the surfs. The black scoters, they're just now starting to come through. Why we do this and what we hope to learn from it, well, we pretty much explained that last year in the video. You made it this far, you may as well take a look.